Welcome to the Success Space. In this video, we will be discussing the concept of critical thinking as presented by authors Richard W. Paul and Linda Elder. Critical thinking is a valuable skill that allows us to analyze and evaluate information, arguments, and evidence in order to make informed decisions and solve problems effectively. In this video, we will explore the key principles of critical thinking and how it can be applied in various situations. Get ready to improve your thinking skills and become a leader of action. Your input matters. We would love to hear your thoughts on the video. Please leave a comment with your opinion. In a world that is changing quickly, critical thinking will help you survive and succeed. The critical thinker believes in logic. You can identify egocentric and sociocentric tendencies by examining your thought processes. To learn how to think critically, you need to put in the effort and practice. To improve your ability to think, you need to be familiar with and comprehend the 8 components of critical thought. Contrast everything with your own logic. Never rely solely on what other people say. In many organizations, power struggles and other cultural factors discourage independent and creative thought. Every thought has a purpose. Fair-minded people are able to see things from other people's points of view, including those of their adversaries. Make a plan to get better at thinking. Make sure to practice critical thinking until it becomes second nature. The world is evolving, becoming increasingly complicated and erratic. Environmental pollution, technological advancements, financial instability, and other phenomena pose new risks to everyone. In these challenging circumstances, critical thinking is a discipline that will assist you in making better decisions. We are completely brought into the world as unreflective scholars, in a general sense uninformed about the job that believing is playing in our lives. This is also how most of us die. Although developing critical thinking skills is a laborious process, critical thinking in and of itself is no more challenging than in critical thinking. Examining your current thinking, including your assumptions, logic, inferences, and decision-making, is the first step. Understanding where one's thinking succeeds and fails is only possible for those who comprehend what thinking is. People who are great thinkers have more than just great skills. Additionally, they possess real intellectual virtues. The intellectual virtues are dependent on one another and reinforce one another. They do not exist or work independently. A person's understanding of the parts of thinking develops one of the most important sets of thinking skills. To put it another way, when we are able to dissect our thinking, we are better able to identify issues in our thinking. Understanding the characteristics of good thinking is the first step toward developing these virtues, which can only be acquired through practice. Intellectual humility. Intellectually humble people are aware of their knowledge's limitations. They are free of prejudices, arrogance. Courage. Intellectually courageous people are open to other people's ideas and brave enough to change their minds when those ideas are better than their own. For fair-mindedness, intellectual courage is necessary. Empathy. Empathy enables you to see things from the perspective of those who oppose you by putting yourself in their shoes. Integrity. Being honest means being consistent in your words and deeds, walking the talk, and putting what you preach into action. The opposite of hypocrisy is integrity. Perseverance. Sound thought cannot survive if one does not persevere. To discover the truth, critical thinking necessitates wading through layers of complexity. Reasoning ability. In a complex world, many people lack faith in reason's ability to provide answers and solutions. They let blind faith, tradition, or emotional impulses guide them instead of using logic. Autonomy. Being autonomous means relying on one's own thinking and self-reliance. Independent thought is necessary for critical thinking, being open to other perspectives, and seeing the perspectives of others. Fairness. Fair-minded people respect all points of view, regardless of whether they agree with them. Self-awareness and a determination to be fair are necessary for developing critical thinking skills. Unconscious attitudes are held by many people. To discover the truth, critical thinking cuts through these mentalities. The ability to distinguish between what a statement or situation actually implies and what people may merely, and incorrectly, infer from it is one of the most important skills of critical thinking. There are 6 stages to critical thinking development. The unreflective thinker. You are unreflective from birth, meaning that you are unaware of how you think. Your thinking processes can be improved by reflecting on how you think. The challenged thinker. A sign of progress toward critical thinking is recognizing a flaw in your thinking, such as incorrect assumptions. The starting scholar. Amateurs recognize that believing is significant and put forth a few attempts toward improvement, however frequently those endeavors are unpredictable and not supported. This stage is similar to when an alcoholic simply acknowledges the issue. While acknowledgement is necessary, it is not sufficient to solve the issue. The practicing thinker. Continuous practice is essential to progress. Create a strategy for improvement and consistently carry it out. The high-level mastermind. Ordinary work on, as indicated by the approach, will assist you with gaining supported headway. The master thinker. Your ability to think critically is well developed and almost effortless. The 8 elements of thinking. Critical thinking necessitates the use of these elements with care. Purpose. Every thought has a goal. The goal could be consciously or unconsciously set. Critical thinkers know what they're thinking about and act accordingly. Point of view. Every thought is viewed from a particular point of view. You can't think without an edge of reference or perspective. Assumptions. An assumption is a presupposition that contributes to the formation of your perspective. It is possible for assumptions to be true or false, justifiable or not. Test and examine your presumptions. Implications refers to the inherent consequences of a situation or decision. They point to possible outcomes that the situation could have. The realization of such possibilities results in consequences. Information. To think, you have to build information out of the raw facts. Inferences. To make sense of data, use the process of making deductions. Concepts. Data are organized into recognizable patterns through conceptual reasoning. The implicit theories, principles, axioms, and rules that direct your thinking are called concepts. Questions. The question may be at the top or bottom of the list of thought components. It could come before the goal or after the ideas have been made. Throughout the process of thinking, the critical thinker will ask questions. There isn't anything more down to earth than solid logic. The following criteria should be used to evaluate critical thinkers' ideas. Clarity means that one's thoughts must be clear. Thinking in a hazy or ambiguous manner leads to indefensible conclusions and poor choices. Exactness, precise reasoning is as per current realities. Off-base proclamations, for instance in publicizing efforts, can convince careless scholars. Precision deduces sufficient but not excessive detail. To achieve maximum clarity and accuracy, you need to be precise and specific. Relevance means that thinking is relevant to the goal. Depth refers to thinking that goes beyond the superficial and addresses the complexity of the thought itself. Breadth, people who think broadly consider and evaluate all perspectives, arguments, and points of view. Logical order refers to logically sound and solid thinking that is neither self-contradictory nor disconnected. Significant, the word significance indicates that thought will not pursue irrelevant tangents but will instead concentrate on issues that lie at the heart of the issue. Fairness means treating other people's viewpoints with the respect they deserve and avoiding stereotypes and prejudice. Continuous education. Skilled thinkers confront their own self-deceptions and learn from experience. They assess their experiences and gain insight. They eliminate inconsistencies and contradictions in thought. They resist pressure from the media, social pressure, and conclusions based on limited experience. How are these skills developed? Reading books written by people who didn't hold the same prejudices as we do is one way to break free from the grip that modern social pressures have on you. Whenever we reason, we must reason from a certain point of view or reference frame. Any defect in that perspective or frame of reference could cause issues with reasoning. Both egocentricity and sociocentricity are serious hindrances to critical thought and are examples of narrow-mindedness. The almost universal human tendency to view the world in terms of one's own aspirations, and goals is known as egocentricity. Egocentric thinkers look at things only from their own perspectives and spend a lot of time and effort proving their assumptions and actions, if they even bother to look at them at all. Success can sometimes bind people to egocentric viewpoints. After all, it appears that their way of thinking has worked for them. On the other hand, unsuccessful individuals who are egotistical may develop into self-pitying failures who are unable to adjust their perspective or frame of reference due to their self-absorbed nature. The way that groups use language encourages sociocentric thinking. Through the application of concepts or ideas, groups justify unjust behaviors and ways of thinking. Domination and submission, two egocentric tactics, are both strategically self-serving. Selective memory, narrow-mindedness, self-righteousness, hypocrisy, excessive simplification, refusal to confront facts, and absurdity are all possible outcomes of egocentricity. Poor thinking does not always immediately come to light as such. If it caters to the prejudices of people and fits into an established logic of power, even the most absurd thinking may succeed for a time. We are all profoundly socially conditioned. The ability to effectively challenge social norms and taboos does not come naturally to us. Companies, obviously, are gatherings, and a few components of corporate life might build up a propensity to sociocentric thinking. In corporate organizations, critical thinking is hampered by the following. Power struggles. Endorsing erroneous viewpoints and illogical conclusions can lead to power, especially when influential people share those viewpoints. Group representations. Group members usually work hard to look good to people outside the group. This can keep people from asking open-ended questions about things that could hurt such an appearance. Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy encourages routines and regulations over independent judgment. Success. Success may cause businesses to incorrectly learn from their experiences. Success may occur despite rather than in response to the company's culture. Understanding and enhancing your thinking are both outcomes of strategic thinking. Make a diagnosis of your weaknesses and think about how to fix them. All speculation seeks after a reason. These are the 11 essentials of strategic thinking. Interdependence. Examine the connections and patterns that exist between emotions, desires, and thoughts. Identify patterns and apply the discipline of reason to them. Logic. Recognize that your thoughts give the world meaning and carefully examine your objectives, inquiries, data, hypotheses, ideas, and conclusions. Assessment. To keep your thinking skills at a high level of effectiveness, conduct regular assessments and critiques of your approach. Egocentricity. Be aware of the dangers of thinking about oneself. Egocentricity of other people. Egocentricity can happen to anyone, and some people may act irrationally. However, before assigning irrationality to others, the strategic thinker conducts a fair and comprehensive analysis. Generalization. There is a lot of experimental and historical evidence that people make generalizations based on a small amount of data that is usually from a long time ago. The strategic thinker contextualizes all knowledge and experience. Distrust of appearances. At first glance, egocentric thinking may appear to be quite rational. To get past the superficial appearance, you must cultivate ruthless perseverance. Deliberation. The strategic thinker is aware that irrational behavior can result from unplanned, unconscious action. Strength and accommodation. Self-assessment will uncover when you are acting in a prevailing or compliant way. Sociocentricity. A strategic thinker questions decisions and ideas that are just expressions of one's social identity. Work. The strategic thinker is aware that it takes time and concentrated effort to develop critical thinking skills. Thank you for joining us on the Success Face. We hope that this video on critical thinking has helped you to understand the importance of this skill and how it can be applied in your daily life. Remember, critical thinking is not just about being able to analyze and evaluate information, but it is also about being able to make informed and reasoned decisions. By practicing critical thinking, you can become a more effective problem solver and leader of action. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more valuable content on personal and professional development. Thanks for watching.